Hey everybody, my name is Michelle. I'm a therapist in the Seattle, Washington area with my practice, Next Chapter Counseling. And I'm here today to talk about two common issues that come up with cell phones. So it's an issue that couples 20 years ago didn't have to deal with at all, and now it can be a common area of conflict in couples nowadays is how to navigate where the boundaries are in your relationship when it comes to the other person's phone or their social media, basically their digital life, so to speak. How much is okay for you to know? How much is okay to keep private? So, two common issues that I'm going to talk about today are sharing passwords with each other, sharing passwords to your phones, and also the issue of how often it's okay to ask or check in on with your partner of who's texting them or who's calling them. So, there could be many more issues around smartphone use as well, but those are the two that I'm going to get into because our phones contain so much information nowadays. Our phones contain pictures, our phones contain different apps. There's so much that you learn by accessing someone's phone that it can create issues in couples either when you do have access to that or when you don't. So let's get into the first one of passwords. So I'm going to give a little bit of arguments for and against, I guess you could say, with passwords, and really ultimately just some food for thought because there's not a right or wrong here. The right is whatever feels good to both you and your partner. I have seen many couples in relationships where they both happily have shared passwords with each other and they both have decided that that's okay with them, that's what they want. I've seen other couples where they both have decided, nope, we're both totally fine not knowing each other's passwords. It's not a big deal. The issue can come in when one person wants to keep things private and one person wants to know. That's where there can be some butting of heads. So I'm going to give some food for thought here on this one of when to share and maybe what to think about in terms of when not to share. So the first thing that I kind of think of this as how I equate it, I guess you could put it, is that there's lots of personal information you'll wind up knowing about your partner the longer you guys are together. So you may wind up finding out over the years your partner's social security number. For example, if you're filling out a form and it asks for both of your social security numbers, that's information that's typically kept pretty private, but you and your partner may wind up sharing that with each other at some point. Same thing with like PIN numbers on debit cards. Maybe that your partner's like, can you take my card and go to the ATM and this is my PIN number? And that's private information too. So passwords of any kind, whether it's for phones, your email, whatever it is, this is also private information that you don't just give out to anybody, but there may be circumstances where you give it out to your partner and your partner winds up knowing this information about you over time. So with thinking about phone passwords specifically, you and your partner might decide to share passwords with each other just in case if there's ever an emergency, because your partner may have numbers saved in their phone that you may not have in your phone. Like you may not have their supervisor at work's phone number, for example. So it may be a situation where you and your partner decide, hey, if anything ever happens to me, or hey, if your phone dies and we need to get a hold of someone and I'm not there, or, there just could be weird things that come up. Sure, I'll give you my password so that if you need to, you can get in there and call people who need to be called or access information that needs to be accessed. And that can be a situation where couples decide to do that. That ultimately, I think, makes a lot of sense for why you might want to have each other's passwords. It's an in case of emergency type of thing. What I see a lot of times with couples or individual people I work with where they want their partner's password, it's typically not for that. It typically goes something like, well, I think we should be comfortable sharing everything with each other. And if you're not comfortable sharing your phone password with me, then what are you hiding on there? It comes across as if you won't give me your password, then you're keeping a secret, and we shouldn't be keeping any secrets from each other. Basically, I should be able to have access to that if I want to, and I should be able to know these things about you if I want. And that tends to be what motivates people is this fear place of, if I don't know what your password is, if I'm not able to access your life on your phone, then obviously it means you're keeping something from me. And it definitely does not always mean that. Don't get me wrong, there are absolutely people out there who cheat and who hide things. Absolutely. And unfortunately, there's lots of ways to do that now with phone technology. There's tons of ways out there. And so there are plenty of people out there who don't want to give their partner their password because they genuinely have something to hide. That's legitimate. It's also the minority. Most people in a relationship are not cheating. Most people in relationships don't have things they want to hide from their partner. They just maybe don't feel good about, like, I don't know why you would need to go through my phone. There's not a reason to, because I'm not hiding anything. And the other thing to think about here, that again, each couple navigates, whether it's with phones or other things in life, is how much in your life do you keep to yourself and how much in your life do you share with your partner. It's okay to keep some things private. It's okay to have like a diary. It's okay to spend time with your friends on your own. It's okay to have your own life outside of your life with your partner. And for a lot of people, that's kind of what their phone represents. Is it represents that they still have some autonomy in the relationship. And when you exchange passwords, especially if there's this expectation of, oh, now that I have your password, I can just go into your phone whenever I want. And if that's how it's going to be used, then it really breeds a lot of mistrust in the relationship and difficulty feeling like your partner takes you at your word if you're telling them, I don't have anything to hide from you, and they're not believing you and wanting your password anyways. So if you find yourself in that position where you feel worried that if you don't have your partner's password, obviously it means they're hiding something from you, even though they haven't given you any other reasons to not trust them in the relationship, and the relationship seems pretty healthy, good communication between the two of you, but you're still feeling doubts and skepticism, I would take a look at that, of why you feel the need to know. What are you really afraid of? And if needed, seek out a therapist to talk through some of the challenges that you're experiencing with trust. For some people, that may be rooted in past trauma they have. If you've been cheated on before, yeah, it's hard to trust again. I understand then wanting to, with a new partner, be like, hey, I really want us to put everything on the table in the beginning because I don't want you to be hiding anything from me. It makes sense, and it also is not the tone or the vibe that you want in a relationship, is one where we constantly have to be checking up on each other because what could the other person be doing behind our backs? That's not fun for anybody. So I encourage you to talk with someone if you found yourself struggling with trust issues with your partner, and if you think that getting the password to their phone is going to make those trust issues go away. I guarantee those trust issues will likely continue. So it doesn't make you feel maybe as good as you thought it would, having access to all of this with your partner saying, okay, I won't hide anything from you, here you go. You may still find yourself having a hard time trusting them, and that's where a therapist can really help. So those are some things to think about when it comes to the password side of things. The other side of things I'm going to talk about is, when your partner's phone rings or when they get a text, is it okay to glance over and see who's calling? Is it okay to be asking them, oh, who was that? How much do you need to know? How much do you not need to know? And again, this was an issue that didn't exist a number of years ago. There were home phones. So if you and a partner were living together and if somebody called the home phone, it would be something where either person could answer. It was, again, a lot harder to, quote unquote, keep secrets if there were any secrets to be kept in the first place. And again, there are some people who this is how they find out if their partner's cheating, because their partner's very secretive around who's calling or who's texting them. They don't want to share that information. And that can be a red flag. If you ask your partner and they get really defensive, yeah, I would notice that. But it is, again, one of those things where you don't want to be erring on the side of every time your partner receives a text or every time they get a call, you being one to go, who is that? Why are they calling you? What are you guys texting about? that gets exhausting for both of you. And again, it's going to lead to this tone in your relationship where you might be feeling like a parent and they might be feeling like a kid. Am I a grown adult here? Can't I just talk to my friend without you wondering what it's about or who I'm talking to? So I encourage with this topic that it is good and healthy. Again, you don't have to share every single time, but if someone calls you and you answer the phone in front of your partner and have a conversation, afterwards to say, oh, that was so and so calling. Or if you're having a back and forth text conversation that's going on for quite a while in front of your partner, to say, oh, yeah, so and I are texting about blah, blah, blah. That shows that you're not hiding anything and that you're comfortable sharing with your partner what's going on in your life socially with who you're talking to. So you don't have to share everything, but it's healthy to share some things. And the other thing too is if you're the partner who's wondering, oh, who are they talking to? If you notice that your partner is on the phone and they look a little worried or whatever it is, it's okay to be like, hey, is everything okay? Like if you're seeing an emotional response from your partner, by all means, ask what's going on. Ask, what's happening if you can see them having a noticeable response to a text or a phone call. So hopefully the tone that's in your relationship is one in which you both share pretty easily and openly with each other anyways, of, who you're communicating with and what you're communicating about. If you have a friend who calls you regularly or someone you text a lot, that you both are in the loop of what's generally going on. But there is not this need to share every single text you get, every single call you get. You don't have to do that. Again, unless you and your partner have talked about it and you decide that that's what's right for both of you, that you guys are going to be that open with each other. But it's really deciding, again, how much do we share? How much do we keep private? And you don't have to share everything. Again, you don't want to be that partner who's constantly asking, but figuring out and picking and choosing here and there what your gut tells you is important to ask about, and making sure you're asking out of genuine concern for your partner of like, oh, that sounded like an important call. What's going on? Rather than being like, oh, what was that about? And kind of having it be from a place of difficulty with trust. Hopefully that helps a little bit. Again, just giving you some food for thought and things to think about for yourself and talk about with your partner if you've had a hard time navigating the place of cell phones in your relationship. If you have a question about anything relationship related or love and you want me to answer it in a future video, send me an email, nextchapter.michelle@gmail.com. Thanks, everyone.